Hello, good morning, students. Welcome in today's class. Our today's topic is an elegy written in a country churchyard, and it was written by Thomas Gray, who was a famous English poet. In today's class, we will complete the remaining part of the poem Elegy written in a country churchyard. In the first stanza, the poet says that the shades of darkness are gradually descending upon the earth. The darkness is spreading all over. In the evening twilight gradually goes and darkness covers the calm atmosphere. This calm atmosphere is only disturbed sometimes by humming of the flying beetles and the jangling sounds which are made by the small bells attached to the neck of the cattle when they move their necks in drowsiness in their enclosure at some distance. The peace of the atmosphere is disturbed by the hooting of the owl. The owl complains to the moon about the persons who are wandering about and disturbing her loneliness. The owl is gloomy and sullen. She sits in a quiet manner on the tower, covered with ivy witches and evergreen keeper under the moonlight. When she is disturbed to live in her lonely place, she complains to the moon because it has been her privilege to live in a solitary places since the ancient time in every country. In mythology, the owl has been fancifully represented as a lady in a medieval castle or under curse. She complains to her lover, the moon, about persons who disturb her in her solitude. The curfew bell proclaims the end of the day and the approach of the evening. According to the medieval regulations, fire must be put out at a fixed hour in the evening. The curfew bell serves as a warning to the villagers. It is the time when cattle farmers and the villagers who go out of the blaze for their day's work return to their homes. The poet alone remains in the churchyard in the growing darkness of the evening. The whole atmosphere is fearfully sad, serious, and calm. The silence of the atmosphere is occasionally disturbed by the droning flights of the beetles, the tinkling of she bells, and hooting of the owls. The poet is still standing in the churchyard. He is thinking about the poor villagers who are buried in graves outside the church. Their graves look like the heaps of sand. The poor villagers who are lying under these graves will remain there forever. In next line, the poet says about the poor peoples under the graves. These are the graves of the poor ancestor of the villagers. Those graves are nothing else but the heaps of earth in decaying condition. These heaps lay under the elms and yew trees. The poor forefathers of the countrymen are lying under these graves, which are covered with dry grass, are uncared for, they are exposed to heat and rain. The yew tree is an evergreen tree. Yew tree is a type of tree which remains green forever. The poet makes a clear contrast between a rich man's grave and a poor man's grave. The poet says that the forefathers of the villagers have been lying dead in the graves. Now they cannot be aroused by any sound which is made in the surrounding atmosphere. They will not be waken up any more by the morning breeze. The breeze is pleasant, fresh, and fragrant and seems to be calling on nature and man to wake up. But the swallow cannot wake them by chirping, from her nest, which is made of straw and dry grass. Cook, the cock too cannot startle them by her crowing sharply. It is to be remembered that sounds of the cock is quite clear like the sound of the clarion, a wind instrument. Once again, the poet says about the villagers that for these ancestors the kitchen's fire would no more be lighted by their wives. They would not get busy anymore in preparing simple dishes sweetened by love. They used to prepare these for their husbands coming back after the day's hard labor in the fields. Their little children will no more babble loudly at the happy sights of their returning home after a whole day's absence. These small children will also not run up to their father, climb upon their knees, and try to monopolize their affection and kiss. In these lines, we find a vivid and lively scene of domestic happiness painted by the poets. So, in this stanza, poet has described an ordinary villager's family and working life in a beautiful manner. Again, the poet tells us that the poor villagers who lie buried in the churchyard worked very hard on their fields. They reaped their crop by their sickles very often. They often ploughed over the land in a very happy and cheerful mood. They drove the pair of oxen or horses on the field to plough it, and they felled down the trees by the heavy strokes of their axes. The poet shows his deep sympathy for simple, hard-working, and innocent people of the blaze. It embodies the poet's thought on the feelings of the high-born and ambitious people about the poor and their way of life. The poet says that the ambitious and wealthy people should not make fun of the simple and humble life of the villagers. They should rather recognize their valuable services. They work hard and shed their hard work in the fields of corn to feed the whole community. The richer people should not laugh at the simple pastimes and delights of these villagers. They should not despise them because of their unknown and uneventful lives. The great and the grand have no right to smile contemptuously at the short and simple life stories of these poor people. The poet wants the rich and ambitious people of big cities to recognize the useful services of the poor villagers. They should not laugh at the uneventful and simple lives of these people. The poet declares the futility of all boasts of high families, their pomp and show, their power and authority. The city dweller and sophisticated people must realize that the end of every man, however powerful, glorious, renowned he may be, is death. The truth of the life is death. There is no difference between rich and poor, high and low, known and unknown, great and small in the eyes of death. Nothing can save man from the hands of death. All the persons who won fame and glory in different walks of life will certainly die one day. Even the entire wealth of the world cannot make them immortal. So, the poet says that one has any right to mock at the simple and uneventful life of farmers, the rich as well as the poor, the powerful as well as the humble will die one day. It is not the fault of the poor people who lie dead in the graves. The memorials could not be erected on them. The society is more responsible for it. Addressing the proud, ambitious, and showy people of cities, the poet once again says in the favor of villagers that they should not lay blame on the poor villagers who lie buried in the simple graves. If their friends and relatives could not erect monument over them, the poor forefathers of the villagers are buried outside the church while those of the rich inside it. The poet admonishes the rich and proud people of the cities that they should not hate the ordinary graves of the rude rustics. It is not their fault that grand and majestic memorials are not erected on their graves, and they were not buried inside the church. No dirge was sung in their funeral. They have been buried unsung and unhonored. It is none of their fault. Society is more responsible for it. Also, these honors have no effect on death. Death comes to all. In next line, the poet tells us about the death, that nothing can bring the dead person to life or please them. The urn to preserve their ashes or a memorial statue cannot bring them back to life. Honors now given to them or words of flattery cannot please their senseless ears. The rich and great are honored after their death by an arm or by a statue made near their grave. The poet says that neither an urn with inscription telling their life story or any life like statue made in their memory can bring back to life those villagers who are lying dead in their graves. Then it is quite useless to mock at them that they could not have these things. He further says that words or speeches now uttered or delivered in honor of the dead cannot rouse them into action. Flattery can no more comfort their ears, which have been made already senseless by death. After having shown that the poor and the rich are both alike in death, Thomas Gray in his Elegy expresses in this stanza that the poor are not necessarily devoid of greatness. He points out that even among these varied villagers there might have been people born with heavenly inspiration for doing noble deeds, but destiny had unfortunately denied to them the luxury and eminence of having magnificent tombs built over their graves. They were endowed with extraordinary merits. They had extraordinary merits, but they had no opportunities to show them. Below one of these obscure graves might be resting a man who possessed the capacity of ruling over a whole empire, or a man who had great poetic genius like Milton. Greatness is not the monopoly of the rich. It exists equally in the humble. It is fate which makes some great and other obscure. These lines show how deep the sympathy of the poet was for the poor and simple people. They possessed no less greatness than the fortunate city dwelling talents who were blessed with opportunities. These were denied to the people living in villages. In next stanza, the poet gives expression to his intense grief at the fact that many persons endowed with talents and outstanding abilities live an obscure life, unknown and unhonored. No stone tells where they lie. Poverty stands in their way in realizing the best that they possess. They are denied the benefits of education and of knowledge of mankind stored in books. They remain ignorant throughout their lives. Extreme poverty suppresses and destroys their urge for doing noble deeds. It completely damns their grey spirit and destroys their urge for doing noble deeds. It completely damps their gay spirit and enthusiasm. The result is they fail to realize their talents. They live and die unknown. The poet again says that the villagers have no admirers. Beautiful maidens shy for their beauty, blush when they are looked upon and admired by a stranger. These flowers also blush, but alas, they have no admirers, and their blushing grace is wasted on the heartless air of the deserted spot. In simple words, many gifted persons cannot win fame and admiration, for they are not known to the outer world. Many villagers endowed with extraordinary qualities but cannot earn the reputation and appreciation that they richly deserve. This is the tragedy of the rural genius. The poet says once again that many promising persons have to live and die without acknowledgement of their merit. Gray illustrates this general statement by giving three particular examples. He says that the abilities of some eminent persons were equally to be found in some of the unknown villagers as well. But as they had no opportunity to show their talents, they remained unknown. In England, in the reign of Charles I, John Hampden bravely stood against the arbitrary taxation and tyranny of the king, and thereby became famous. In the blaze also there might have been some Blaze Hampden, who might have displayed equal courage in the matter of opposing oppressive measures of his tyrant landlord. Again, there might be lying in the obscure